right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to today's Marketing Center of Excellence Masterclass. And we're going to talk about understanding the Blue Ocean Strategy Framework and how to leverage that for your agency. Every month in the Marketing Center of Excellence, we choose to do a masterclass at the last Tuesday of every month. We typically do it at 12 p.m. Eastern time. Today, we bumped it up an hour so that we could have our special guest speaker, Josh Nelson, with us, who I would definitely say is a subject matter expert in this area, especially when it comes to the agency industry. So we're super excited to have Josh with us today. Thanks, Josh, for joining us.
Oh, my pleasure. Thanks for having me. I'm really excited about this topic and excited about the ramifications for those of you that are on with us as agencies, thinking about how to differentiate and find less competitive waters to swim in.
So while we're giving people maybe a minute or two to join, I'll give you all maybe a little bit of backdrop to this. In 2010, I started my agency, and we launched with websites and SEO. And I didn't really know or have the understanding of the strategy of Blue Ocean Strategy really at that time. I understood some of the concepts, but in terms of applying it into a whole new industry, I really didn't understand that dynamic. And so I started a generalist agency in 2010 and really struggled for many years and just trying to figure out all the different pieces and moving parts to the agency world. It was a completely new business for me. And it wasn't until I met Josh in 2016, 2017, and started following him and started learning about the whole idea of a niche, that whole idea of Blue Ocean Strategy and marrying it to the industry in terms of the digital marketing industry really coalesced for me, that idea and that strategy in terms of applying it into a marketing agency. So for all you who are here today who are agency owners or are on the executive team of an agency or who might be listening to the replay once this goes up, I'm really excited for you to be able to understand and maybe marry the Blue Ocean strategy with the idea of niching and sub-niching as we get into that today. So thank you again for joining us. We'll go ahead and dive right in. So for those of you who are maybe new to the Marketing Center of Excellence or haven't joined us on our new online community yet, I'll leave this link here for you. It'll also be in our slide deck that I'll share with everyone at the end. But we do have an online community that we're trying to move off of Facebook. It is a great place. It's where most of the agency world coalesces and works in on a daily basis. But in order to not be fully dependent on Facebook, we are building an online community that's just separate and on our own kind of platform. We would certainly invite you to join us in that new online community that's off of Facebook. Today's topic is all about Blue Ocean Strategy. Comes from the book that was launched in 2005 by Chan Kim and Renee Mobile. They had worked with Harvard Business Review for many years leading up to their launch of Blue Ocean Strategy in 2005. And they've been recognized many different times through the years for their work in and around this topic of what they call Blue Ocean Strategy. And really, the main idea is, do you want to compete in the bloody red oceans of competition or commoditization, or would you rather create uncontested market space where you're not competing and being commoditized? And so the question is, what is a Blue Ocean strategy? And out of the book, if you were to take the entire book and try to summarize it, it's really the simultaneous pursuit of differentiation and low cost or high value offerings to open up new market space and create new demand. It really is about creating and capturing uncontested markets. And when you do that, you can truly make the competition irrelevant because the competition is out there competing in that bloody red ocean while you've created a new uncontested market space. It certainly is based on the view that market boundaries and industry structure are not a given. Like, you can challenge the status quo, and you can reconstruct industry actions and beliefs and make up your own new market space. I'm also, in these slides, I'm giving you a fair amount of the content here, even though I'm not going to go through and read everything, because I know that oftentimes people want the slide deck. And in this case, you're going to have a really good summary of the book and some of the main tenets here. But ultimately, the authors use the title Blue Ocean Strategy, or the analogy of a blue ocean, to describe the wider or deeper potential that you can find in new market spaces, or just where there's a lot less competition. And I know that we put a 1 in the chat right now. I'm going to use a good Josh Nelson Zoom webinar strategy. Put a 1 in the chat if you would rather compete in your own blue ocean versus competing against all sorts of other people in the same bloody red ocean, right? We all look for that. We all want to compete in an area where we really are all on our own. And that's really the underlying tenet of the Blue Ocean strategy. So What do we want to do here? We could talk for hours here. I'm going to hand the mic over to Josh here in just a minute. But the main tenets of the book are this. Number one, focus on creating new markets. So a blue ocean strategy is going to focus on creating new market space instead of competing in an existing one. So just as an overarching strategy, we want to focus on creating a new market. When you get into that new market, you look at value innovation. And I call this DIVAL or dynamic value, because if you can simultaneously innovate in value, meaning add more value to the customer while simultaneously reducing cost, you're going to have dynamic value or value innovation. And that's really one of the main strategies that the book talks about. And it lays out a framework for how you can actually begin to go through this strategically to arrive at or identify your blue ocean strategy. Another piece of this is to emphasize or focus on the customer experience, because part of a blue ocean strategy is going to be differentiating. And when you look at the industry as a whole and you look at how people are competing in that bloody red ocean on a macro level, one of the pieces that you can do to value innovate and differentiate is putting focus on your customer experience or CX. Also shifting from competition to collaboration, looking at pooling resources, pooling expertise, creating something new and innovative that can benefit everyone involved. And then once you have this blue ocean strategy identified, align your whole system, align everything with that strategic differentiation and really go after it and execute. Josh, anything you want to add in here? Have we just hit the main tenets here of the book?
Yeah, I think, it's a great book and you've put some great information here. I'm excited to get into the specifics on how this applies to the agency world and how you'll be able to leverage this in the agency. But I don't want to cut you off at all.
No, not at all. I mean, this is where you can really dive in here and help us as agency owners. So Josh has really gone deep on this. In fact, he's built an entire business model around helping, training, and mentoring other agency owners who have probably been competing in the bloody red oceans of competition for, but whether it be a short amount of time or, like in my case, it was literally 6-7 years where I really struggled in the generalist agency work. And then I had learned about Blue Ocean Strategy back in 2006. That's when I was really exposed to the book. It was in a different industry at that time. I was in the mortgage banking industry, and it really helped me just understand some of these strategic ways to look at how we could differentiate, but I didn't know how to apply it in the agency world. So I really want to just thank Josh, number one, for the work he's done in the agency industry and helping many of us, I know many of you who are on today, figure this out. So Josh, why don't you take us back into the past and explain this?
Yeah, so if I try to think about this from a practical perspective, right? We all understand the difference between the blue ocean and the red ocean, right? Just like Lane said, that the blue ocean would be like where you can go fishing and there's fish swimming freely. And when you drop your line into the water, they come up and they're not like, afraid of you. Versus the red ocean would be like when you're trying to fish and all of the fish are bloody. Like the water's bloody because there's so much competition. There's so many people going after the same exact customer base. And if you think back in the digital marketing agency space, I put here between 2010 to 2015, everyone was going after the local business, right? We can work with the local business and help them with their website, their SEO, their pay-per-click, their social media. And that was a very red ocean. And so it was like, where's the blue ocean? Where do you find opportunity? And it became pretty clear that if you positioned yourself as the expert in a very specific niche, right? Well, like for me, we decided to focus on plumbing and HVAC contractors. That was a blue ocean because there was nobody that could say, I specialize in helping this particular industry with these particular services. And as you get into the industry and you create great content and you actually get proven results and you can showcase what you've done, like you become basically a market of one. And there's a very, very blue ocean there. How many of you guys went down the niche path? Let's go back one slide here first. But just type niche into the comments if you've gone down the niche path. Like maybe you chose a niche, you positioned yourself as the expert, and you saw the benefits of that. I know I have, and hundreds of the seven-figure agency members have over the years. It was like, it's one of the quickest ways to accelerate your, but I say that's in the past because fast forward to the kind of the current state and where we sit today, pretty much all of the big niches that you think about are now becoming bloody oceans, right? If you think about plumbing, if you think about roofing, if you think about chiropractic and lawyers and all the niches, you're like, man, there's lots of them. They have money to spend. There's a propensity to invest. me and all the other marketers say, hey, you know what? This is a fast path. I'm going to go after that particular niche. And it became bloody. And when it becomes bloody, it becomes competitive. You have to really fight for every client. It's hard to retain because it's easy for someone to say, hey, I can do the same thing. And it becomes a commoditized service. Just type in the comments bloody if you feel like, ooh, man, I feel like I entered a bloody ocean at some level. And you could still win. Don't get me wrong. It's still extremely effective if all you did was say, rather than being a generalist agency, I'm going to focus on some particular vertical, law firms or roofers. It can still be effective, but it's not nearly as easy as it was in 2010, 2015. Give me a 1 if that makes sense. Like, give me some interaction here, guys, if you're tracking along with me. So in the current state, blue for Jeff, amazing. Jeff's got a Blue Ocean. So in the current state, like where we sit right now, I believe there's a new opportunity. And there's a couple of different ways you can still find blue oceans running your digital marketing agency to position yourself differently, to not have to compete, to not have to strive so hard to retain your. And I think there's really 3 paths. The first, and probably most complicated, would be the untapped niche, right? If you think about all of the obvious ones like roofers and chiropractors and dentists, those are all pretty bloody. But are there untapped niches? Maybe like where there's high transaction value, a high need, but it's not on everybody's radar. So if you have one of those, you feel like typing it in, put it in the comments. Or if you do and you're like, I'm not going to share it, I'm just going to put 1 because I found an untapped niche. I think there are still untapped niches, right? Where there's money to be made, there's not a ton of competition, but there's not a lot. And it's almost like looking for the, right? I think that the big opportunity really comes in 2 places. And that's going to be the niche within the niche and or really innovating your service offering. So go back to the niche within the niche for 1 second. So if you think about the bloody oceans, everybody's saying, I work with plumbers, right? I found there's some agencies that have come in and say, hey, plumbers is a pretty broad service. If I can say I specialize in drain cleaning, right, which is a high transaction value service that leads to higher transaction value things, and I can really prove myself in that space, I can come in and find a blue ocean within the plumbing niche and say, I just focus on drain cleaning. Or within plastic surgery, for instance, rather than saying I help plastic surgeons, I've discovered the exact strategy that works to book your calendar solid with mommy makeovers, right, which is a high transaction value thing that all of these people want. And so if you're looking for the blue ocean in red niches, that's a pretty decent play. Try and find the high transaction value service that you can focus on and go deep. Give me a 1 if that makes sense, a differentiation between going after the entire industry and saying, okay, let me try and find either the untapped niche or the niche within the niche. Okay, good. Some good interaction there. So then the next strategy, though, that I think everybody can tap into, regardless of if you're in plumbing, in roofing, trying to find your niche, I really believe you have to innovate, right? You can't just say, I'm going to do the same things that I've always done. Almost everybody is saying, hey, I do website SEO, pay-per-click, Facebook ads, tracking for roofing companies or for AC companies or for chiropractors. You want to think outside the box. And so this visual is showing like those are the services that sit within the box. I think you can find a blue ocean in a lot of cases if you'll think outside the box and say, what else could I do that would solve problems in my industry that would have a big impact, that would give me a differentiated offering, would really make me in a blue ocean again instead of a red ocean. So some examples of that would be marketing automation services like we can do with High Level, like helping them follow up with their leads more effectively, use database reactivation, putting lead conversion services in place. So instead of just saying, I'm going to generate leads for the industry, be like, I'm the one that's going to generate the lead, follow up with the lead, and book it in to a service call or to a new patient. Those types of little changes to your model can make you the unique provider, right? Which can really make a big difference. So Lane, anything you want to add on this? Like thinking about how you innovate your service offering to stand out and create that blue ocean strategy within your digital marketing agency?
No, the thing I'll say here is that if you get into the book, and this is one of the resources here, they actually have this, what they call the authors, the eliminate, raise, reduce, create grid. And this is basically a real framework or an exercise that you can go through to help you in what Josh is talking about, is in this process of figuring out how can I innovate within a niche and what can I do. Part of it is to look across other offerings that are out there And one thing that I'll say here is, you know what, I'll say this at the end because we do have some examples. I think you have some great examples here to give some case studies on how people developed the Blue Ocean strategy and increased their value innovation to create some great success.
Give me one in the comments if we help to hear a couple of case studies on this, just to bridge the gap between I get the concept, but okay, this is just the people that have actually done this. Okay, awesome. So I think one of the best examples of this is Chris Johnstone from Connections Inc. He runs a digital marketing agency that works with the mortgage space, right? So he helps mortgage brokers generate like new cases, right? And over the years, he built that to a 7-figure agency doing websites, SEO, pay-per-click, but it became a very bloody ocean. And it became bloody from two sides. It became bloody with other agencies going after that industry and those services, because there's big national companies in every market in mortgage going after the same keywords, leveraging the same strategies. It became very hard to win for the clients. And so Chris was thinking innovatively to try and find a blue ocean, but he didn't want to have to hop to a new niche, right? That's one of the worst things you can do. If you've already got expertise in your niche, you've already developed know, like, trust, and you've got case studies to go, okay, mortgage didn't work for me, even though it's 7 figures, I'm going to try and jump into something totally different, some new blue ocean. It's very hard. And so better would be to innovate within that space. And so he started meeting with his clients and trying to figure out, like, you know, what are their challenges? Where are they getting stuck? How can I have a big impact? And what he found was, rather than just doing the SEO and the pay-per-click, there was 2 points of failure that most of these mortgage companies has had. Number one, they weren't able to follow up with the leads that he generated through Facebook ads or through SEO to convert them. And they weren't actually converting into bookings. So they weren't actually converting into new mortgages. And what he also found was a backdoor thing was that most mortgage companies generate their business through referrals and through word of mouth and through keeping in touch with their existing customer base. And so he rolled out a completely innovative offer, which was, we're going to put callers on the back end of the leads, and we're going to call into your past customers to generate more referrals and more business. And that was an exponential growth game changer for him and his business. And so I think this is a great example of being within what was formerly a blue ocean, seeing it turn red, and then really paying attention to the customer base, leveraging your existing expertise within the industry and creating a new blue ocean that led to exponential growth. Give me a yes in the comments if that makes sense, or just type blue in the comments if that's like an example. You're like, okay, that's some examples of really thinking innovatively. Okay, great.
Right. What you see here is 2 points of the Blue Ocean strategy framework that Chris put into practice or into play in his business strategy. One, he focused on client experience, right? That concierge model. He leveled up on the customer experience, and then he innovated with more value by looking at what some of the needs were that were untapped or that were not being met, and then added that additional service. So just 2 very simple strategies, like major difference and inflection in the value curve and the result in his business.
100%. So another great example of this is Jody Underhill and Vanessa Underhill. Jody's like a legend in the digital marketing agency space. Like, he's worked at some of the biggest agencies, and he's been in this industry for a long time. And he also found himself in the generalist agency space, working in a local market. And he decided, I'm going to go down the niche path. And he went down that niche path, and he found it very, very red. And it was kind of like hard to compete, right? It was hard to stay relevant in the industry, even though they were really good at SEO and pay-per-click and Facebook ads and all of that stuff. And so trying to be innovative, he really listened into the industry. So what are the biggest challenges that this industry I'm in is facing? And he started in like truck service providers, and then he went into home services. And what he found, and if you're in either of those industries, you know that most of them are like, yeah, I want more leads and sales, but my bigger challenge is I don't have enough quality workers. I don't have enough trained technicians. I have a recruiting problem, not a lead generation problem. And I'm sure a lot of us hear that and we just think, yeah, that's an opportunity for somebody else, right? I'm going to stay in my lane. But what Jody and Vanessa did was they said, if that's the case, how can we take our digital marketing expertise with websites and SEO and Facebook and marketing automation and apply it to this recruiting challenge? And they started Rapid Hire Pro. And within a matter of less than a year, they blew that up to a multiple 7-figure digital marketing agency in a completely blue ocean. Because while everybody else was going after these same prospects, these same companies with, hey, let's do more websites, let's do more SEO, let's do more pay-per-click, they said, hey, let's solve your biggest challenge, right? Let's recruit high-quality technicians. And so they were able to go in and really be in a non-competitive environment and create a massive amount of recurring revenue. So I think this is a great example.
So one thing that really stands out to me about this is that if you don't go into a niche, which I think is that first component of a blue ocean strategy in our world as agency owners, I don't think you ever even get into the intel where you see some of those needs that the market has that Jody and Vanessa found. But if you stay out as a generalist, there's so many needs that you'll just never even be aware of, because until you get into a niche, you don't really dive into the market segments and all of the needs that happen within that niche, because there's too many needs as a generalist to actually even try to consume all that. And that's one thing. If you're struggling as an agency owner with sales and with differentiation, you're constantly having that question about price in your sales process. It's always coming back to price and how much are you going to charge. That commoditization process, this is how you break out of this, is to develop a blue ocean strategy, pick a niche, or even more like Josh said, a sub niche, and then start looking for ways to value innovate.
Yeah, so type helpful if this is helpful to hear real examples. Like, we love the theory. I read this book years ago, and I love reading it. I actually re-listened to it to prepare for this session, and I love it. But it's like, how do I apply this to the agency world? And I think the best way is to look at real examples of real people that have found blue oceans. That way you can look and think, like, how can I apply this to my agency, to my niche, and into my opportunity? So the last example I'm going to share is Chiro Candy. Billy and Brady Sticker, they run an amazing multiple seven-figure agency in the chiropractic space, which is one of those super duper red oceans. Like, almost all the trainings on how to go out and build an agency say, chiropractic. That's a great niche to go after, right? And if you've tried, it's a very hard niche to penetrate. It's a very hard niche to retain clientele in. And they've got a great service offering in that niche, but they're constantly innovating. They're constantly thinking about, how do we add more value to this space so that we can create blue oceans for ourselves, so that we can stand out from the competition. And one of the things they did early was get really in tune with TikTok ads, right? They studied the TikTok ad formula. They rolled out TikTok ads for their niche pretty much before anybody else, and created an additional 7 figures in revenue just through TikTok ads. Now, we can have a debate about the TikTok ads being bad and TikTok not being a good play. Let's not focus on that. Let's focus on thinking about, as new opportunities emerge within the digital marketing space, AI, TikTok, whatever comes next, how can you be the agency that's on the cutting edge of that, can bring that to the industry and stand out from the competition and really have those blue ocean opportunities, which is where you're able to have explosive growth, you're able to have profit maximization, and really sustained retention of your client base. So I think this would be a great time, if you go back to that last slide. Last thing Lane and I want this to be is just us talking about the blue ocean strategy, and you guys be like, hey, that was cool. I want you to ponder for a couple of minutes here, what will you do to innovate? Maybe the first step is, I need to just choose a niche, right? I just need to choose a niche or a sub niche and start to prospect into that and really understand that industry, start to understand their challenges. Maybe you're already doing well within your niche, but it's becoming more and more competitive. And you're starting to think, man, I'm really starting to lose my competitive edge. How will you innovate your offering? How will you innovate the value you bring to the table so that you can be in a blue ocean within your niche? If anybody wants to type in comments here, I would love to hear kind of what you're thinking, or just use this as a time to think. We just think about it. Don't just leave this session with, hey, that was cool, but walk away with something you're going to implement or change.
And even if you're already in a niche, look for, the trend has already been niching into attorneys and the legal 5-7 years ago. That was new. That was a blue ocean. And today it's trended into more of a red ocean. So don't get comfortable just because you're already in a niche and things are going well. Those companies that fail to continuously innovate are the ones who die on the vine, right? And we have a really, really special chance right now to ask Josh some questions. If any of you have questions for Josh, while you may be thinking about this and thinking about how can I innovate, or maybe I need to go into a niche, maybe there's questions about what niches are good or bad or things like that, feel free to ask any of those questions. While that's happening, what I'll share with you is how, our case study in Signal Genesis. That is our blue ocean strategy. We saw a need. We saw an untapped need in the SEO space. We were trying to solve a problem for our own agency with SEO. And at the same time, I saw different components of different industries. There's the PR industry, there's the SEO industry, there's the reputation management industry, and really all three of those apply different tactics, different strategies, do different things, provide different services within those different components of the overarching digital marketing industry. And so what we did is we took a little piece of different components of these industries. So we took a piece of the PR industry, we took a pieces of the SEO industry, we took some pieces of the reputation management industry, some pieces of the SaaS and technology industry, and we combined that into a new solution that is completely unique. It really is a blue ocean. While we have some quasi competitors, oftentimes we get asked, who's your competitor? We don't really have one because we created a blue ocean with Signal Genesis. And so I think the Chris Johnstone case study was really helpful for me because it really helped connect that dot of leveling up with customer experience and looking for ways to innovate because there was needs. And also Jody and Vanessa's, how they saw and really capitalized on that. So we've got some questions in here. And so the question is, first one we got here is, and this is for you, Josh. I'm a brand new digital marketing agency. I'm not savvy in social media myself. I'm a former contractor doing handyman work to survive, but I need help. Funding is limited. Any ideas?
Yeah, I would think at that stage in the game, the best thing to do is to align. If you don't know how to do digital marketing, right? Whatever it is, websites, SEO, pay-per-click, is to align with somebody that does it well and just focus on selling the service. So you've got one of the best right here with us, Lane from Quantum Agency and Signal Genesis, that like align with and figure out, okay, what would my packaging look like? Handyman and contractors is your industry. That's a great niche, right? Go like market to that existing base, like to your existing local marketplace, and make some introductions, make some calls, find out what their challenges are, offer them services. No funding. My first agency, or the agency that I run today, that's now like a $5 million a year business, we had no funding. It was on the back of selling clients, getting revenue. We never took out funding. We never borrowed against our existing base of revenue. So it can be done, right? I just think at your stage, if you don't have the expertise to do the work, then align with a great white label provider and go sell. If you can't solve for the sales thing, then it's gonna be a challenge.
I'll piggyback on that. What Josh said is you're already a contractor. You've been doing handyman work to survive, so you understand that. So stay in the contractor niche and then just align with a white label provider and sell. I also put in a link in chat. It's called fundandgrow.com. If you've not heard of that before, they specialize in helping business lines get business lines of credit. And I've used them. Now you got to have good credit typically to get access to credit with them. But if you have good credit, they are really good at helping you secure unsecured business lines of credit. And that's a really good way. And funding is drying up because of the state of the economy. So, that's one potential solution for those of you who might be looking for some business credit or some funding to get going. Next question from Darren. Big opportunity I see in home services is call rep training and coaching. Not sure how blue ocean that is, but a lot of call reps miss opportunities to upsell, aren't overly friendly on the phone, etc. Josh?
Yeah, I think it's probably not that blue. There are a lot of people doing it. There are a lot of established coaches and mentors in that particular space. I think the bluer ocean would be to say, hey, your team's not doing a good job answering the phone. We can try and train them, or we can place our own, right? And train up your own world-class phone follow-up people and put them in place. That is a much bluer opportunity right now if you're looking for the blue ocean opportunity than trying to train their existing staff. My opinion.
Richard says, we've been seeing other niches inside our chosen niche since we got back from Miami and putting together our strategy. That's awesome, Richard. Good to hear that.
It's great to see you.
I agree. I think the first choice that we typically are going to go to in a niche, I would say drill down and peel another layer of that onion off and go into another sub niche. The legal industry is a great example of that. Like you could say we're a legal marketing experts, or you could say you help DUI attorneys grow their business, or you help personal injury attorneys, or there's so many practice areas. And within those practice areas, there's tens of thousands of law firms that are only do DUI and criminal law, or only do family law. So look for the sub niches for sure. Josh, another question for you. Which is better, industry niche or functional niche?
I think the question is industry, like going after roofers, plumbers, chiropractors, or function, like my niche is websites or SEO, or definitely industry, right? It's 100%. And I've looked at it in a lot of different ways. You're going to have much more success saying, hey, I specialize in helping this particular industry generate this, than trying to say I specialize in doing websites, because you're really relevant to no one in whatever that phone, like, or Facebook ads. right? Who cares, right? They want to know that you're an expert in their type of business. You understand how to generate results for them specifically. So definitely industry over function 100 times.
For sure. Another question from one of your Josh Nelson surrogates. My question is, where is an affordable place / country / state to hire remote account staff, client-facing SEO account managers?
So my personal opinion, if you're going to do account managers that are talking to your clients, that are managing the relationship, I believe that's a US-based or North American-based position. I've seen it done other places and successful. So in Pakistan, you can hire people with great English speaking skills. In South Africa, apparently, is also a good spot for it. Philippines. But my personal preference, if you're going to hire account managers that are talking to your clients, that's a North American English native language type of role.
For sure. So another question here, does anyone here use their own personal name as a brand name to target a niche, or is it a business name brand better? Josh, I'll let you take this too.
I think that a business brand for these types of services is much better. And I think if you can be on the nose with your name, that works well. So just a couple of examples of that. I work in the plumbing industry. We work with plumbing and HVAC companies. Our company name is Plumbing and HVAC SEO, right? We're very specific to that. One of our fastest growing agencies in the program right now has gone to multiple 7 figures is Roofer Marketers, right? They work with go guess it, roofers. And so if you have that name and you put out great content and you show up at the industry events, they start to recognize that as a known provider of value and a known provider of proven results versus Josh Nelson is the guy in SEO. In the plumbing space, it's different. So I would definitely say on your brand and make the brand specific to the niche.
I totally agree. But the only caveat would be that if you are in a niche, let's just say the handyman contractor who just asked the question a little earlier, let's just say he's really well known in that niche for his work as a handyman or a contractor. I would maybe create a personal brand and then have your company brand be handyman marketing or whatever, and then just marry your personal brand with the company brands to let the company brand really benefit from your personal, what's the word I'm looking for? You're so well known in that industry that as a personal brand. That would be
100% agree. So yes, you want your brand to be what's out in the marketplace, but don't hide behind a logo and you need to be, because there needs to be someone that's looked to as the ambassador, the face. So if you look up Plumber SEO, I'm in all the videos, I'm the face of you still need to be the personality behind the brand that everybody knows, likes, trusts, and believes in. And so it needs to be a combination.
For sure, yeah. And Tony is another great example, who's also done phenomenal in the 7-figure agency. He's got online marketing. So again, he's got exactly who he's targeting right in his company name, which, for sure. The specific states to hire from, North America, this is going back to the account manager.
They just dropped in on ZipRecruiter, the average hourly rates by state. I think the beauty of having a virtual team is you don't have to, you're not confined to your local area. So I say fish where the talent is, and that could be anywhere, and not the major cities typically, not Miami, New York, Los Angeles, but usually in the sub-towns is where you can find great talent and pay a lower annual wage.
Awesome. And Lynn, good to have you here. Glad you were able to make it. Awesome. Have you seen any growing niches that surprised you? Meaning if we went with you, Lane, as a contractor in their niche, that you can get great results that people just don't go after. Do you understand the question, Josh? Number one, have you seen any growing niches that surprised you?
There's been a number of niches that have surprised me. So the obvious ones tend to still be effective, but there's ones like funeral homes would have never hit my radar. I would have been yeah, obviously that's an industry, but do they pay for marketing? Do they need these types of services? And then Alan Hillsberg focuses on the funeral space, really positions himself, builds a multiple 7-figure agency within that particular. Another example that would have never really caught my eye is the decorative concrete. You think about home services as one of the big verticals that really do well with digital marketing. That's too broad, right? So then you think about remodeling and the different remodeling projects that somebody might do within their home. Could be kitchens, could be bath, could be any variety of things. But then specifically decorative concrete, where you go out and you change the color of your concrete or you put a new patio in. There's a couple of agencies in our program that are running multiple 7 figures within that space. I'm not saying to go after that, right? Because there's some really good players in there, but you should be surprised sometimes. The niche within the niche can be really effective.
Yeah, I agree. And the decorative concrete is an amazing, I would just never naturally think, oh yeah, let me specialize in marketing for decorative concrete companies or concrete coating companies, but those marketings are blowing up in that niche. Solar is an up and coming. Green energy is a great niche I've seen people getting into. I do understand the second part of your question now, Tavius, now that I've read it. For us as a white label, we don't specialize in any given niche. We do have some heavier concentrations: home contractors, water damage restoration, legal, some medical. But what we've specialized in as a white label is in the white label niche, and we've built out the system. So when we do SEO, it's not going to change for a decorative concrete market company or a chiropractor or an attorney. SEO is going to be the same. The only thing that changes for us is the keywords. And so what we've specialized in over the last 13 years is just really getting good at the underlying strategies and systems to do this in multiple industries. And then obviously we specialize in white labels. So we specialize in being invisible for our agency partners.
And really, your niche is agencies, right? You solve problems for agencies.
Correct. You got it. Okay, so Kelvin has a pretty good question here. How do I get connected to the owners of a business to present myself and have high chances of booking a call? Calling offices from numbers on Google isn't working. I'm an American, but don't live in America, so I can't go to local events. What are the best methods that allow me to connect to the business owners itself? In the home services.
That's a loaded question, right? We could go super long on that. I would say best way would be to use a tool like Coldlytics that can help you pull up a list of prospects within a space that meet certain criteria, right? Not everybody's your prospect. You should have a certain amount of revenue potentially, and then do some analysis on the front end. Try and look, are they not ranking? Is there a problem with what they're doing today? Can you come in and say, hey, look, I was looking at what you have in place. It looks like you're doing a lot of great stuff. I see an opportunity for improvement. Do you have a couple minutes for me to show you? That usually works pretty well if you're starting from a net zero start. Like really spend some time understanding that they've got a problem so you can come to the table, not just like a cold, hey, that isn't going to get anybody's attention.
Also, Kelvin, I would really recommend this last bullet point here: developing a plan for effectively executing the strategy. So if you're going to create a Blue Ocean strategy, you got some points of innovation, you're in a niche or a sub niche. Now what's next? How do I put all that together and really build my agent? I would say join a mastermind group like the 7-Figure Agency, hire a mentor or a peer group for accountability, because going it alone is tough. I did it alone and I struggled for 5 years. And then I brought on a partner to try and help me. And then we struggled a little bit until we really got into a niche and really figured this out. And you can shortcut that so much by years and tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars, by just getting into a peer group, a mastermind group, getting a mentor who can help you put those pieces together. So that would be one way I'd answer that question, as well as find a peer group or a group like the 7-Figure Agency to join. Another Josh Surrogate: after choosing a niche, do I need to craft a specific core offer or just render the various digital marketing services?
I definitely think you need to come up with a hypothetical offer, right? So choose a hypothetical niche, right? So you're not locked in, especially early on. I think this could be a good vertical. I'm going to get this list. I'm going to call and make this offer. But you do need to figure out, like, what would you offer that you believe is going to have a result for the client. So you want to come up with a package that you could say, hey, this is what we're going to do. This is what we expect the outcome to be. And this is how much it's going to cost. If you don't do that, you have no idea what your profit margin is going to be. And you could wind up selling something at a loss.
Two more things I'll add on to that. Thank you, Josh. Number one, and Lynn, please jump in too if you want at any time now that you're with us. Number one, I would say if you're looking, have a good lead, something that you're going to lead with. And that's where you get into the unique selling proposition. Part of the Blue Ocean strategy is having something that's innovative and unique that you can lead with. One of the things that I did many years ago as part of our Blue Ocean strategy, and I still do it today in terms of teaching other agencies, is don't sell SEO. Everyone sells SEO. Like these companies that we talk to are getting calls and emails nearly daily of people selling SEO, or they've already purchased SEO in the past. They've had some good or bad results. They have their own predefined idea of what SEO is. And so you really are walking into a landmine when you start trying to sell SEO. And so what I started selling was managed web presence. It's a managed service. And it's web presence, because SEO really is all about the presence of a company online and managing that for them in multiple ways, generating signals for them in multiple categories to help them do better in search, that's SEO, but if you structure it as managed web presence, just a little vernacular change can help you in terms of the offer, the core offer, or how you approach people. So that was the two things I had there on that one. Lynn says you can always hire kids working in Chick-fil-A drive-through if you want great customer service people. That's a really good. We do this for on the white label side, and our account managers who are account managing for agencies, we hire them out of the Philippines, but I specifically hire them account managers who have worked in the bespoke industry, who have worked in major call centers, and every woman that I have hired as an account manager on our team has been already worked for a major Fortune 1000 company or in a major call center, has been trained for several years and all that. And so I get really well-trained people who understand customer service and account management for us. So for sure, there's always ways to find good talent that have already been pre-trained. Richard says, what was the tool that Josh mentioned?
That was Cold Linux. I think we already dropped the link in there, so it should be good to go.
Awesome. Cool. Another Josh Nelson surrogate. Is there a good LinkedIn strategy to generate prospects you recommend with a script?
Lynn, do you have any thoughts on this one? We'll let you chime in a little bit.
I really don't. It's been a while since we've done any LinkedIn cold outreach, so I don't really have a great answer to this. But probably like anything else, you have to build relationships. This isn't necessarily about just every time I get a friend request on Facebook, first thing I do is go look and see if their headline is "We get you leads," because then I just don't. I'm looking for somebody who's in my industry, who's related to me, who is trying to build a relationship before I even accept those sort of requests. So I would say our goal there is to build a relationship.
Next week, I will be dropping a live interview with a gentleman named Matthew Hunt, who is one of the best LinkedIn marketing experts in the world, in my opinion. So I interviewed him, Matt Hunt. I'll be dropping that interview next week. But one of the things that he definitely recommends, and Josh, this is in line with what you do as well, is the snackable content, just short form content, videos, or what have you that add value. So it's really what Lynn said, it's building relationships. Every one of us gets turned off by that LinkedIn or that Facebook message that's immediately selling us. We all just block. So don't do that, right? Just add value, provide ways to, and that goes back to innovation. What are some ways that you can innovate in your agency, in your approach to add value to your market, your network, before you even ask for $1 of compensation? So add value, find ways to educate. And that means doing some market research, because once you find out what are the needs, what are some of the pain points in the marketplace, then just create content around how those pain points can be solved. And I'll drop that interview next week, which will be a really good interview. I guarantee you'll find value in that.
I think sorry about that. I think a little bit more along those lines, I think our brains are really designed to ignore almost everything these days. We're just hit with so many different messages that sometimes your brain just shuts all of those down. And one of the things that, along with the Blue Ocean strategy we're talking about, is to truly be different, to find ways to differentiate yourself from your competitors. There's a really good book about being different. It's called Get Different by Mike Michalowicz, about being different in your marketing. And
what's the title again, Lynn?
It's called Get Different.
Get Different. Okay.
Yeah, it's by Mike Michalowicz, the author of lots of great books, but Profit First, probably the most famous of those. It's really amazing. It's really about being different in your marketing and being different in your approaches. So like Lane said, if you're going to offer the same thing that everyone else offers, how do you break through the noise of that?
A good question here. What service offerings are you preparing in case a Great Depression type of event or maybe environment happens? Josh, you have any?
Yeah, I think that in the case of a depression or recession, I think just being ever present and knowing that you've got to be, the clients are still going to have to market. They're still going to have to generate lead flow. They're still going to have to generate revenue. I think having a drop option where you can drop to maintenance, you can drop to a SaaS offer, like with a marketing platform where your costs are very low, but there's still a healthy margin. I think those are some options you want to make sure you have in your back pocket.
I also think that just knowing that not everyone will have the right mindset about it. There will be people that go out of business. There will be people that fail. There will be people that can't make it because they're not structured well. And a lot of times for you and your clients, it's time to double down because there's still a need for your product and service. And so as the providers fall off, the demand can go up. And if you're really well positioned when people still need those products or services, I think there's really time there to almost double down.
Look for customers in your niche that have the right mindset. There are going to be companies when recessions hit, depressions hit, cycles happen. It doesn't mean that everything is just going to stop. Short of Armageddon, nothing. Our economies are going to keep going. People are still going to need plumbers, and they're going to still go to the grocery store, and commerce is still going to happen. But there are companies for sure who have the mindset of scarcity. And there will be people who go out of business and with those kinds of mindsets. So look for in your prospecting, and I think have it in your filters and in your conversation with the prospect, try to find out and elicit what kind of mindset do they have, because there are huge opportunities in recessions, huge opportunities. Some of the biggest wealth creation happens in recessions and depressions, and the businesses that are going to expand and double down in these times are the businesses that you want to be having as your customers, not the ones who are scarcity minded and worried about the sky falling. So
100%.
Good question here. I think we can end with that. I don't think we have any other questions here. So what I'll do here is we'll end with this. So there's this book, Blue Ocean Strategy, has a lot in it. It's obviously a whole book. There's no way we could spend an hour today, cover everything in it. Going before the book ever came out, Kim and Moborn did a lot of work with Harvard Business Review. And so some of these articles, Tipping Point Leadership was produced back in 2003 before their book was even released. Value Innovation was another article that they had. And I had read these articles way back in 2003, 2004, 2005. And I have them in here for you to be able to download, because they take basically several different pieces of these concepts, and they all kind of converge in the Blue Ocean Strategy. But some of these articles are really good and to give you deeper insight. So if you're the reader like I am, and you like to research, you like to unpack things, some of these Harvard Business Review articles will really give some life to the overall Blue Ocean Strategy framework. And then also, I included this workbook as a resource. I created this back in, I think, 2006. I took a number of peers through this framework in terms of how we could create a Blue Ocean strategy within the mortgage banking industry, which was the industry I was in at the time. And I figured I'd just throw it in here for you guys in case you decide you want to basically take the book and the concepts there and go through a workbook type of exercise to develop a Blue Ocean strategy, because you really can use the framework that the book lays out to truly come up with a Blue Ocean strategy. So there's all of these that are here in our resources. If you'd like a copy of our slide deck, the only thing I ask is that since we put some time and effort in this, is just give us a heads up on, or a shout out on social media, either in Facebook or LinkedIn. Tag me if you found any value in this class today. Really, again, appreciate Josh, you coming and spending time with all of us today, and just showering us with your experience and wisdom with everything you've done with Seven Figure Agency. Super appreciate you doing that. And so as you've attended today, if you like the slide deck and you've gotten any value out of it, that's all we ask is mention us in social media, Marketing Center of Excellence, the Blue Ocean Strategy class. I'll drop the slide deck to you in either LinkedIn messaging or Facebook Messenger as a way of thanking you for that. And really, again, appreciate all of you spending your time with us today. Have a great day. The replay will get up here next week as well. Josh, anything you want to leave us with?
No, I think this has been a great session. Lane, great work putting this together. Loved going deep on the Blue Ocean strategy and how it applies to digital marketing agencies. And it's my pleasure to be here and to share.
Thank you so much. Lynn, thanks for joining in. I appreciate you joining in as well. For all of you, if you're an agency owner and you're not already a part of the Seven Figure Agency Mastermind and Mentorship Group, highly recommend you reach out to Josh and connect with him. I don't get anything for this. I can just truly say it is the #1 best mastermind for agencies, bar none. If you want to explode your agency, the ROI on it is not in the hundreds of percent, but thousands of percent for those agencies who have joined. And for me, it's helped me just having that peer group, having the knowledge, being able to learn people who are more successful than me in the agency world. It certainly will help you, and it will definitely help you implement and execute on a Blue Ocean strategy. Everyone, have a great day. Thanks for joining. Appreciate you all. Have a great week as well. We'll talk to you soon.